back here with Donna Raposa, our special education coordinator in our school, right? And she's going to help us do an OSR review today. I know everybody wants to learn how to do that properly, so we're going to get started with that, where they're housed, right? So you're going to tell us, how do they find them?
Okay, so the OSRs are housed in 206 at Calico, and the elementary OSRs are all based on the agency. So all you need to do is look for your agency, pull up, and they're all listed by teacher as well. Okay. And then all you need to do is find your student, pull the OSR, and there you go.
So if it's a new teacher, will their name be on there already, or will the teacher from before be on there?
It depends whether or not the office assistants have been able to do that, but you might find it would have been the old teacher.
Down here we've got Aptus, right?
Right.
And so they just look by their agency, and then go in here, and if their name is not there, the chances are they haven't had a chance to.
Right, and sometimes as well the student is still with the agency, has changed teachers. So if you don't find the particular student under yours, just look through and see if it's still under the old teacher as well. Right. But the OSR should be here, but if you don't see it, then you can go over and talk to the office assistants, and they can help you there.
So we're looking at September, right?
Right.
Now, will all the OSRs be in by September?
Maybe not. So probably the best thing for you to do is to touch base with the office assistant and ask whether or not the OSR is in.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what you want to do as well is you want to sign out.
Okay, very important.
Yeah, make sure you do this so that we know if an OSR is missing. It could be misfiled, but at least we know who was the last person that had the OSR. You don't want to take the OSR out of Calico. It has to stay here.
Okay, in this particular office,
in this particular room
is
probably the best thing. If you're working with one of the VPs, the VP can take it into their office and work with you on it, but you really should stay here. Okay. Because these are very confidential documents, and we don't want to lose them.
Okay. Now, what about photocopying items in there?
Yeah, you can definitely photocopy some items in here. You can photocopy things like report cards. The IEPs you don't have to because they're in they're in SAP. But any of the psychological assessments, the agency should have that from the referral the parent is given, so they can always ask the agency for assessments that they have as well. But it's really good to go through the OSR right in September because then these students are all going to be leaving in a year or two from the program. So we need to see, has the student been through an IPRC before? What's in that OSR? So it's really critical you do come and you do read through it because you're going to learn so much about this.
So this is not an optional thing. This is really, this has to happen.
This is the only way you're going to understand your kids.
Okay. So. All right. Now, do they sign in this? You know, when I was in a community school, we signed this.
Yes.
Do they sign this?
They should be signing it.
Okay.
Yeah, they should be signing
it. And the dates. So we're going to take a look at this OSR, right, Donna? You've got this. Yep. This is an actual student.
It is. It is.
And Bonnie, hi Bonnie.
Hi.
Hi Bonnie. We've
teacher.
kind of grabbed Bonnie here today because everybody's super busy, or that's what they tell me. Anyway, I'm not sure I believe them. But anyway, Bonnie is here just finishing up some work, and she's agreed graciously to participate in this so that, because I don't have any idea what we're doing. And I may not have the right questions to ask, so Bonnie's going to help us out here. So we can get started. So let me just stand up so I can get a better view of this thing here.
So this is probably an average size OSR, unless you are working with a primary student. Right. The majority of the OSRs are quite thick. And it's simply because a lot of assessments have been done. There's a lot of IEPs for these kids as well. This is so critical to understanding your student. Because this is how you're going to be able to support them, understanding strengths and needs, understanding where they started to have challenges when they were in community schools. All of the assessments are here as well. So it really is important to understanding the strengths and needs of your student looking through this OSR.
Okay.
You ready to go?
Hi, Wendy. How are you?
I'm good. How's everybody? Oh, we're looking at an OSR.
That's right. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
My favorite document.
Starts.
Yes.
This is
This
Wow,
is
that's a really big one.
Well, I'm just being told that in fact this is normal,
This
right?
is very typical. This is a grade
Yeah.
8 student, so
Right.
this would be pretty typical of many of the kids. So the first thing I do when I look at an OSR is I go through the school history.
Okay.
Because this is critical to seeing how many changes
That's right.
have happened in this student's life. So you can see how many schools this child has been in. And it tells you that, whether or not there's been consistency. If there
Right.
hasn't been consistency, then it's very hard
Yeah.
for this student to be able to actually, be able to regulate and be able to feel comfortable, in the school environment.
Even this one here, for instance, this got Toronto Catholic. It's got an independent school, a Toronto board, then Catholic again, then
Okay.
the York, then the so you know that this kid has been bumped
Has really
around,
moved around a lot.
and they're really going to need some stability.
a lot of TLC.
Yeah.
And who knows, and not to make any judgments about what happened there, because some of this could be family moved, it could be change of custody, but just to note that how is a kid going to manage when they've been moved around
Right.
that
Right.
much?
Okay.
So the OSR is in sections.
Okay.
So the first section that you'll always find in an OSR are the report cards.
Right.
And then we will find IEPs. So this student has had quite a number of IEPs. So there's 3 containers for them here.
Now, a note is that you might come and not see what
Yes.
an OSR this organized,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take much to organize that. These are half envelopes.
Right.
Or you can slip things in that haven't been put in as you're going through it, because I have not always seen them this organized.
Okay.
So just to be
I
aware.
chose a nice organized one.
Right.
Good.
It was
Well,
easy.
but
for us
reality
to
is
do.
they
They're not
may
always
not
organized,
always. So
right.
don't be shocked if you
Yeah.
open one
Again,
up.
it's all over the place.
Yeah.
So would the teacher then, the person who's now received the OSR, begin to organize it, or does somebody else do that?
Well,
Well, the teacher can help.
Okay.
If the teacher has some time, I would certainly say
Okay.
that they can help. Now, also, what you're going to find in the OSR are some school team reports as
Okay.
well. So this student has been through an IPRC in the Catholic board, but also in here there are case conference notes too. So this is really critical to be looking at as well, just to understand the level of support the student has had, and what has been put into place previously. The student also has had a referral package, so that's in for a TDSB. Now, typically, this information is housed in this part of the OSR.
Okay, so that's
but
another
because
section.
there's so much stuff here,
Yes.
they just weren't able to, because you can see how
Okay.
thick that is already. But typically, you're going to find the statement of decision
Right.
for the IPRC. And the funny thing about this one is that I was the coordinator on this committee when this student was in grade 2. So, yeah.
and
Doesn't
don't
mean
be
that I'm
surprised
old,
if you
but-
see your own name on the list of
That's right.
many
So at
times seen
one
as one of
point-
those many schools
Yeah.
too.
Right, yeah.
Or people that you do know, and sometimes that's good because you can, I'm looking here and maybe I could get a hold of that person,
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
and ask them some questions.
So is that
Absolutely.
okay? Someone can talk to a previous teacher or coordinator, somebody. It's not you're not breaking confidentiality. Speak.
Yeah, I mean, as long as if it's someone who's been within our section
Yes.
programs, then certainly you can. If it's TDSB, then certainly you can.
Okay.
You may find that there may be confidentiality if the student was in a section program in another board, that they may want a consent signed.
Okay.
But typically, teacher to teacher is really good information, and as long
And
as
also-
you're sharing
yeah.
teacher information.
Yeah,
that's
teacher to
critical.
teacher and TDSB was what I
Yeah.
understood
Okay.
the rule to be.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that your agency may have something signed that says that I am able to get information from
Okay.
other schools. That's an important thing.
How would
to
they find that out? Just talk
ask
to
their
them.
age,
Say,
at
is
their,
there something?
their agency,
to
the
get permission?
CYW
Right.
in their program, because
So-
a lot of times parents have given permission for you, but don't do it if you're not sure.
If you're not
because-
sure,
yeah,
check.
yeah,
Right. And people are taking. They're not photocopying all this stuff. They're taking
No.
notes.
They're taking notes.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so just a quick question here. This seems, how long would you allot yourself? Like a morning?
Absolutely.
an hour?
Yeah.
Like what would you need based on your experience, Bonnie? How much time would you need
Oh
per
gosh,
OSR?
yeah, half a day for sure.
Per OSR?
No, half a day to go through.
Through because you
all
have
of them.
6
and at
kids.
the beginning of at the beginning of the year, you might only have 4, or you might have
Right.
or you might have 6.
Okay.
But and it's really good to look at them beforehand, because otherwise,
Okay.
who are you planning for?
You're in
know,
the dark, totally in the
yeah,
dark.
like
You
what do
don't
my
know.
students look like, and also,
Right.
where do you start
Okay.
from?
Right.
Yeah. All right.
So other things that you're going to find
gonna
in the majority of the students that we see have had psychological assessments. There could be psychiatric assessments here too. There could be speech and language. So that's also where you're going to find under assessments all the important information to be looking at. So I have a tendency, what I do is I'll scan all of the assessments, and then I'll go to the one that's most current.
I was just going
Okay.
to say, well,
Yeah.
you can be
Correct.
really overwhelmed
Yeah.
with how
Yeah.
many
That's
are in
right.
there.
So you just flip
And
through
so
them.
if you feel like you don't have enough time to go on, the most recent
The
one. because-
most recent is the one.
and
to
also
focus
take
on.
note of when that most recent one
Okay.
was, because many times we'll get an OSR where the most recent psych assessment was 8 years ago. So you also a little red
Yeah.
flag, like, okay, this is a
Yeah.
kid who has been gone from school to school, but they really have they don't have an assessment. Either it's not in there because the parents don't want it in there,
Right.
or they've kind of fallen through the cracks and not got a recent assessment.
And
Right.
would you recommend that, or is that brought?
Well, I would put a star on it and then talk about that really early,
Okay.
like, okay, find out,
Yeah. What's happening.
the
Yeah.
whole history.
Yes.
Right, and that's critical for IPRC
Yes.
as well, because if the assessment is very old, then we want to make sure that we are going to get something more current
Right.
from the agency, rather than waiting until February and then it's too late to get an assessment done. It's really good to be looking through these and look for the most current, but also talk to your agency, because sometimes the agency has a more current assessment that's in here.
Okay.
The parent might not have released it.
Right.
It might be a private psych that they've not released, so definitely speak to the agency about
So
that too.
that private psych, would that go eventually into the OSR
Sometimes
or not?
it all depends on the parent. The parent
Okay.
has to agree to release it to
All
the
right.
OSR.
But in terms of the IEP, would information from those assessments, they should be on the
should be,
IEP?
but
Yeah.
you don't want to think that it's absolutely going to be there, and that's why you want to go through
Okay.
here, because it could be that a teacher missed something
Right.
and didn't put it in, and that's why you want to look through here.
Or a
But
parent
would-
didn't want it in there.
Yep.
The parent there was
didn't want
something
it.
in there that they're not comfortable with, that
Yes.
they don't really want shared.
Right.
It's not. That's not. Doesn't happen as often.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it can happen.
So that my question then is, if you're preparing an IEP, do you need to get the parents' permission to put information from one of those agencies' psych assessments into the IEP without, if the parent doesn't want the psych
If
assessment?
it's already in the OSR,
Okay.
then it's fair game.
It's fair
the
game.
parent has agreed to release it.
Right.
If there is a private psych that the agency has, it's not here, then you might
Okay.
want to ask the parent, can I put this in the IEP? It's
Okay.
always to the best interest of the student. What you're
Right.
looking at from that psych is the strengths and needs,
Right.
and that drives how you're going to teach the
Okay.
child.
So
I will
let me-
say this though about
Okay.
some of these assessments. From a teacher perspective, some of them are really amazing in giving you recommendations.
Yes.
Some are really detailed in the kinds of things that you can be doing in class. And even 25 years as a teacher, there would be things in there. Wow, I never thought of that. John, would benefit from
Whatever,
a
XYZ.
workstation,
Yes,
and,
yes.
at the back of the room.
Right.
So to look at them not just
Okay.
as lots of
So I'm hearing from what you've said now, just to sum up, don't rely on the IEP as a source of information. Make sure you check the psych assessment, because there are recommendations that may not have made
Right,
onto the
and
IEP.
make sure that you're looking at the statement of decision
Okay,
as
the
well.
statement of decision
Yeah,
is
because
important.
that's going to drive a lot of your strengths and
Okay,
needs on
so
the
that's what it
IEP
looks
as well.
like. I don't want to show
Yeah.
it from a privacy, but could you
Right.
just hold it up so we can see it from a distance?
Yep.
So that is what
That's a
that
statement
looks
of
like.
decision.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you.
But another note is that if it's a placement or a decision in
Yes.
the Toronto Catholic Board, that doesn't necessarily transfer into the Toronto Board.
Okay.
So if a student has been identified in the Catholic Board, you can't use it on our TDSB
Okay.
as an identification.
So then
because
what
it's
do you
not
do?
been identified by TDSB.
TDSBs.
that's when you would
You
want
bring
to have
your,
them.
you start, yeah.
You would want to have to bring them to IPRC at
Yes.
TDSB.
So you would
start that process.
So how would they do that? You're a new teacher in a classroom. You've gone through the OSR. You realize, oh my goodness, it's a Catholic school now. What do I do? Contact Donna?
No.
What do you do?
So what you do is when
Yeah.
the student is leaving a section program, there is a service review meeting where
Right.
you're looking at the documentation and you're determining whether or not the student meets criteria in the TDSB. Every board will have different criteria for exceptionality. So now in the TDSB, we are not IPRCing students back to the board who are going to be going into a regular class.
Oh,
We're not
okay.
doing that anymore. We are IPRCing kids into intensive support programs.
Okay.
So once the student lands in their community school, if that's where
Right.
they're going back to, if the school feels that they need to go forward for an IPRC because maybe they're looking at a specific type of program for that student, then they can do that.
Okay, so I'm not sure I fully understand. So I'm a new teacher. I've started at a program. I've gone through the OSR and I find there's the IPRC, that sheet there that you showed us, decision was from a Catholic school. I don't necessarily do anything about that.
No, not at the moment, because really
Yeah.
the IPRC doesn't really make a difference. The student
Okay.
is in a section class
Right.
because of mental health needs.
Right.
So that's the reason that student is there.
Okay.
We're certainly going to look at
So we're going to
strengths and
look
needs.
at it and see. Okay, so
Yeah,
we're
it's going to
going to
drive the
use the
IEP.
information,
Absolutely.
but not for the purpose of
No.
any further.
It doesn't change.
It
how
doesn't
we support
change.
that student.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah.
Thanks for clearing
They
that up.
still may need academic. They may need an IEP for academics. But I think under where it asks about exceptionality, you wouldn't put
No.
that in because
No.
it's not recognized.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
I just want to talk a little bit about what I do when I look through an OSR with a teacher. One of the things I do is I go all the way back through the report cards. And I know that, if I had a grade 12 student, I might not be going right back to kindergarten, but this student is grade 8. And the reason I do that is I want to take a look to find out, where did the breakdown start to happen with this student? Were there attendance issues? What did that look like? And I don't necessarily look so much at the marks that the student got,
Okay.
but I look at the learning skills
Okay.
and the comments the teacher has given as well.
Okay.
So when I looked through this OSR for this little guy, I saw that a grade 5 report card was absolutely stellar. It was
Okay.
just phenomenal how well he did. He was
Yes.
getting goods and satisfactories on his learning skills. So I looked through to see what the teacher is saying. He's been making great academic progress, great social progress, what he enjoys doing, and things like that. So this was a really good year for this student.
Even despite that's the absences,
Yeah.
that's
15 days.
15 days
for the
a
15
new year.
days. Is that average?
I'd
Bennett?
be 15 days. Well, that's one a month, a little more than one a month, really, if
Okay.
you looked at it like that. That's not a red flag yet, but
No.
but it does.
Yeah,
Bigger numbers would
this
be.
particular
And
student,
you don't know why, right?
No, we
15
don't. And
days.
this
Yeah.
particular
Sick or
student,
what?
I would say that every year, he's had about 11, over 10 absences per year. Though, so I saw that grade 5 was a phenomenal year. So often, when I'm working with a student, what I like to say is, you had a really great year in grade 5. Tell me about that teacher. You had Mr. Samra. What was Mr. Samra like? What did he do that was so great for you? How did he teach you that you did so well?
Yeah.
Because I think that's a really great way to engage a student in helping them to understand how they learn best.
Right.
Rather than always, picking on the negativity. Really look at it from a positive standpoint. Like, you were a learner here.
Right.
What was the reason for that?
Yeah, that
And
makes a
then
lot of
when
sense.
when I start going through when I got to grade 7, then I really started to see the breakdown. And I started to see 20 absences. There was one in here, I think, that he had a total of 37 absences.
Okay,
So
so-
Red flag, yeah.
Right.
something broke down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
What was it? And maybe it's not in here, but it gives you a really good sense of how long has this student really been struggling. Here it is, like 37 days
Oh dear.
in grade 7. It's very, very sad to see. But at least it gives me a sense, but I have some positive.
Yeah.
I have something really positive to bring to the student to say, you did really well here. What was it about it? And then I can look to see, like, where was he? And you know, he was in the same school, which is kind of interesting. So something might have been
some
happening
stability.
in the family.
So
Yeah.
basically, that you're saying that these report cards are telling the story. You're seeing a pattern. They're telling a story of a student's life.
Right.
You know, possibly
Right.
personal, academic life.
Right.
So it's not necessarily something in school. It could have been something
It could have
going
been.
on at home.
It could have been.
And it won't necessarily show up in paperwork
That's
in that
right.
file.
That's right.
But you
No,
know
that's
that
Yeah.
something significant has happened to set
Right.
this child
And
on
then
this
I'll go
course.
to the grade 5 IEP and see what was
Okay.
happening there. And then I'll also go to
Or just take note how long
Right.
they've had an IEP, because some kids will be
Okay.
go along all the way to grade 5, and,
And
then
then
suddenly
suddenly-
there's an
yeah.
IEP.
So this little guy has had an IEP since grade 1.
So
then I'm gonna
struggling
go-
from day one.
I'm going to go to the case conference notes as well, and I'm going to see what they were saying there about the student too. And there was a lot of positivity when I went to those case conference notes from the board. So, I mean, that's fantastic to see the positivity there. So, again, you're trying to build the student to see themselves as a learner and
Right.
figure out what was working so well for the student. And even it's a good conversation with the family as well. Is anything you can add about why he really was engaged in learning here? So it's all really good stuff to be looking at to understand your student better, but also to understand, you know, what strategies are going to work best for the student
Right.
when you're teaching.
A really, really critical one is the reading. I always try to see if that just never in grade, especially for boys, that if the reading just never took off, I might suspect that the core problem might be a reading issue, because you can't access anything in grade 7 and 8, and if reading is still the issue, and you can kind of see maybe in the younger years if they've had any interventions,
Right.
like reading empowerment or reading recovery, or if they got no help, but the reading still seems to be really, really, really low.
Yeah.
That's like a little
Right.
red flag too.
Yeah. So that may be
where you're going to spend a lot of your time, because maybe that's why they're starting to act out in adolescence, is because they've been struggling with reading
just
for a
never
long time, and
happened.
you can kind of get through and move on, but the jig is up.
Yes.
In about grade 7 on the reading.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing to look at in
Okay.
the
Right.
report cards.
And one of the things a teacher can always do, I mean, some of these OSRs are very difficult to read through because there are so many assessments. So if you do find there is a psychological assessment that you don't understand, all you need to do is let me know.
Right.
And I can meet with you at Calico, and we can go through that psych, and I can help you understand it better and what that's going to look like on an IEP and what that's going to look like in terms of strategies in your classroom.
Okay. What you're saying is this is really the history of this student, and if they don't do a review, they're not getting,
No.
you know, not even a snapshot.
No.
You're seeing this child show up in your classroom, and you have no idea what they've been through, where they've come from, or academically what they're capable of, right? So it's
You're
really
teaching for
blind. You're just
Yeah, and I've often met students, you know, teachers have said, I really want the student to understand that they're a learner, that they do good things. And I've met with them and I've gone through the psychological assessment in part of the OSR where I've really seen great gains, and you see the smile on their face where no one's really ever told them that.
So you're not just looking for problems and
No.
trouble and this type.
No.
You're looking for areas where they've been successful,
Right.
where they have made gains,
Right.
and those are the things you're going to focus on.
Absolutely.
Right.
And
Even
for
the
the kids.
pictures.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I
The
say to
pictures are
them,
the
"Oh
best
my
part.
gosh, I saw a picture of you when you were in kindergarten. You were so adorable."
Yeah.
Or you know those glasses you had in grade 2?
Sure, and take a
Not
picture
that you're
on
not
your phone.
adorable now.
Well, no,
That's
exactly. But
Take a picture on your phone so they can actually see themselves, and that's
Yeah.
always the way
that's
I
a great
start
idea.
when I meet with a student, because they're always really nervous
Yeah.
to meet with me. What is she going to say about me?
Right.
And that's the first thing I start with
Yeah.
is look at your pictures. You were so cute, and they laugh, and you know immediately they start to calm.
Yeah,
and
that
they
is
start,
not.
and that you care about them not
Right.
just as
Right.
this all
Yeah.
it's paper,
Yeah.
but there's a picture of you on picture day.
Hey,
You know, and get your
right.
hair
Yeah.
greased
It's
up.
like you're not just a file, right? You're a person.
Yeah.
So it's very important, like you said, to make sure that you go through everything, but you put everything back
Yeah.
in its place,
Please
neat and
do.
organized.
Yeah.
And I'm gathering also from what you're saying that most OSRs should be fairly straightforward, but they may come across.
There will be some complex
There will
ones.
be, and at
Yeah.
those ones they need help with, they
Absolutely.
should just contact
They
you,
just need to contact me.
make an appointment
Yep.
to come and see.
Yep.
Now, so they start writing the IEP right away. Like, is that what happens? Are you using the last IEP from the OSR? Are
Yeah,
they starting
certainly
a
they
new
can
one?
take a look at that. That can help
Right.
drive some decisions, but they
Okay.
want to start with their assessments
Right.
and also their observation
Okay.
as well. The observation of what does the student look like in the classroom? What are they doing?
Yes.
You know, figuring out what their interests are and maybe starting with doing an interest inventory.
Okay.
To figure out a little bit about them, but certainly the previous OSR is something you want to look at,
Right.
but don't expect
Yes.
it to be perfect because
It
maybe the
isn't.
teacher previously really didn't understand the
Yeah,
student.
didn't
It's
get
not
it.
a really concrete IEP. So definitely your own assessments, your own observations are really important, and also you do send home a parent consultation
Mm-hmm.
as well, and ask the student.
Yeah, if
Ask
they're
the
old enough,
student.
they're older,
Yeah.
and they can speak to you then. So what you're saying is they don't need to start constructing a new IEP
They're
immediately.
not going to start it on the first day, but
Okay.
they're certainly going to start doing all of their assessments.
all
they
of the
have
things
30
they need
school
for
days.
an IEP.
30
Yeah.
school days to start.
Which
it.
go
to
very-
get it done.
They go
30
very
school
fast,
days,
though. I
so
will say.
fast. That's
Yeah.
right. So they shouldn't just put it off until
No.
day 29.
Don't say, well, I'm not going to start until I get the OSR. You don't
Okay.
have time for that.
You need to
because
start
some of
with
them do take
doing
time.
assessments,
Yeah.
making notes,
Right.
and then when you get to the OSR, that begins to
Right.
kind of round
And again,
out your.
talk to the agency as well. The agency will have reasons of why
Right.
they've accepted the student. Take a look through their
Yeah.
files as well, so you see what they have.
All
to
right.
They always have, well, I can't speak for all agencies, but I'm assuming there's some
Yeah.
things that are similar. A past report card,
Right.
just the last year's report card and IEP, and the most recent psych
Right.
assessment. So it
Yes.
might be enough to start with.
Yeah,
Right.
for
And
sure.
you were mentioning that there will be a checklist available to
Yes.
help people guide them through this,
Absolutely.
and possibly available when they come to look at the OSR.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
We'll put it on AW.
Okay, well, thank you so much,
Hey, you're
Bonnie and
welcome.
Donna, for helping us through this, and thanks for watching. See you next time.